Hello, and welcome to, or welcome back to the program. Today, I will be demonstrating one method of building a continuous grain box. Let's hop right in. Of course, after creating a flat edge, I need to thickness the other side. I am aiming for around 1.25 inch thickness. I'll show you that trick in a little bit. I need to cut this chunk of walnut to the length of one long side and one short side. My planer leaves terrible snipe, so I'm going to smooth it out with my trusty low angle number 5. Over at the table saw, I need to cut this to the final height. That happens to be about 6¼ inches because that is all that my bandsaw can do. On the bandsaw, I'm splitting the board to get 2 book-matched pieces. You have to be careful here because you have to read the grain and the tension in the board. Fine Woodworking recently shared a great recommendation and some helpful tips on resawing on their podcast. I'll link it down below for you. After planing these boards to 5/8 inch thick, I'm cutting out the components. I'm using my pull saw here to minimize the curve. Less wasted material, and we don't disrupt the grain pattern. On the other board, I'll make an opposite cut, as in the longer piece will be on the opposite side. For this technique to work best, I recommend that you label all of your components as you're working. Cutting the opposite bevels on the sled and sneaking up on the fit. Then I refine the edges on my shooting board. It's appropriate that I'm wearing my Holy Shoot t-shirt from Dirty Leg Craftsman. You should go check out his channel. There's a link below. And here we get a look at what it's beginning to look like. For the top and bottom pieces, I milled up some hickory I had just laying around. At least I think it's hickory. I glue them into a panel, and I'm starting to work them into a usable material. And y'all know I like using my chapstick all wrong. Off camera, which is code for I forgot to film, I cut the positives to the dados on the lids. I'm beveling the edges to meet up with the tenons. Because my saw blade likes to leave some paint behind, I cut these shy of the finish line so I can fine tune them into position with a block clean. I'm cutting the dados with just a single blade. The kerf is just under 1/8 of an inch. I'll readjust the fence to get these at about 1/4 of an inch width from the panels. And a quick test fit to see about final adjustments. I'll let you in on a secret. There were a lot of adjustments. I'm doing a dry fit to determine any issues and to get a first look at the finished product. I'm going to glue this box closed and then separate for the lid afterwards. And another lesson learned, if it requires a hammer to fit, it's too tight. Say it with me. After getting it tweaked and fitting well, I'm finishing the inside of the box components first. This hard wax oil will make any glue squeeze out easier to get off later. I'm taping off the glue joints so no finish gets in there to prevent adhesion later. This project is a lot of planning ahead. This Osmo hard wax oil is some good stuff. I like it better than the other popular brand, you know the one, and I find it more accessible. After curing overnight, it's time to glue this thing up. For extra security, I taped along the inside of the glue joints to make cleanup easier still. While I have the glue and clamps out, I decided to glue up the leftover material from the tops for some splines. I can get enough long grain to make the width. And Sunny's giving me that side eye because she's ready to go in because nobody came to see her that day. I'm cleaning up the profile and leveling out the edges so I have a square reference edge in the next steps. I told you a lot of planning ahead. In this shot, I'm showing a small gap and a trick of closing that up. Take a burnishing tool and lightly rub the two edges together, and that seam will close up. I made this jig to cut splines across the mitered edges. Using a stop block, I can make repeatable cuts all the way around to ensure I have even spacing. I have a tape measure glued along the inside face so I can make any minor adjustments and know exactly where my block should be. You don't want to cut completely through the joint. I'm only cutting about 2/3 of the way here. Using the same sled from earlier, I'm cutting the spline material from that block I glued up. And I'm going to have plenty of material left over to make something cool on the lathe. I chose to add the glue directly into the slot instead of adding too much glue onto the splines. Either method works, but this is just how I can ensure that I don't drop a glue covered piece and it stick to everything but where it needs to be. You can hear the sound change when it's fully seated. Another pro tip, always make more than you need, because you're going to break at least one of them. I'm wiping the squeeze out with a wet rag. I chose to flush cut these while the glue is still wet to help blend any variations in the splines. After a little sanding, those edges and splines are looking sharp. You can even see the grain starting to wrap around. Probably the most nerve-wracking part of this entire project was cutting this lid out. If I messed my alignment up, this could come out all wonky and mess up the whole look. After each cut, I added some tape along the edge to hold it together and keep it from falling into the blade. Luckily, everything came out perfect. Just a light pass with a hand plane to smooth the edges. I have to come clean here. I actually tried making a hidden hinge that required me to cut a relief into the box in the lid. Unfortunately, this did not work out, and I had to cut about a 1/4 inch material from each side. I had these light hinges on hand from a project years ago. I needed to inset them a little bit, but they worked out pretty well. I had this clasp hook from the same project. 2 rocks and 1 bird or something. And of course, I've got to put my brand on it. I didn't like the sharp edges on the inside and decided a 1/4 inch roundover would look better. It just kind of added to the look. Okay, we're almost there. Adding a little more Osmo to the outside to set overnight and cure. And here are the beauty shots. I built this for the Shaper Box Challenge in February. I don't have a practical purpose for this. So drop your suggestions down below and we'll see what we can come up with. Hey, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing and possibly spamming your friends with this video. I have t-shirts available on my website if you're interested. We'll see you next time.